Hi, this is Matthew with RetroEdge.Tech, and in the previous video I talked a little bit about tiling window managers, and I got a chance to experiment more with that. I live booted Manjaro bspwm on a ThinkPad T420s laptop, and I had a lot of fun playing around with the tiling window manager and getting used to it. I just was able to play around, follow some of the shortcuts of the help, and experiment with the concept of a tiling window manager. Probably the easiest way to explain it or visualize it is that normally, in Microsoft Windows or most computer operating systems that you use, you can have one window on top of each other. So here on the screen, this is what I'm using right now is not a tiling window manager, but I can have one window on top of each other. So you can see here that I've got my blog posts up here, which I edited in Vim for the first time, and then here's the window here. And so is in this kind of the normal desktop metaphor, you can have one window that's hiding the other. So I can move this window over here, and it's hiding this terminal here with Vim in, or if I pull this up, it's hiding the browser window behind it. With a tiling window manager, it doesn't do that. It essentially has windows in tiles that don't overlap each other. You can move them around and you can resize them. You can put them on different workspaces or tags, but they aren't overlapping each other in the way that I showed you here with these windows overlapping each other. So that's probably the best way to think of tiling window managers as an introduction. And it's so different from what people are used to with computers that I don't even think that you would consider them as an option, because they're just so not like what you're used to with Microsoft Windows or Mac OS, or even say something like Ubuntu Linux or Linux Mint. So why would I want to use one? I think they're powerful. After playing around with it for a little bit, I really like it. Of course, I haven't used it as my main computer, and I'm just trying it out. But so far, I think it's pretty cool. And I'm excited about trying it out more and using it. How I did a live boot was I live booted the Manjaro version of bspwm, and you can get that by going to Manjaro's website, and then the additions here, go to community, and then bspwm, and then from there you can go to the download page and download the ISO, and then you can boot it. And then I put it on a flash drive and plugged it into my ThinkPad, and from the boot menu, which on the ThinkPad is you hit F12 while you're turning the laptop on, I was able to then boot it to the live image of this Manjaro bspwm. And that worked great. And so I was able to play around with it for a while and get used to the keyboard commands and moving the tiles or windows around. So I do have this in a Box's virtual machine here. And the virtual machine is not perfect. The resolution isn't quite right, but I can at least demo and show the basics, the very basics of what a tiling window manager is and how it looks, and how you can move some of the windows around. I am a complete newbie at this right now. I hope to not stay a newbie and learn quite a bit quickly, but right now I'm very much a newbie with tiling windows manager. So this is Manjaro bspwm. I've got it in a Box's virtual machine here, and I'll open some windows. So one of the first things I found how to get the help, and that's with the super key. So on most keyboards, that's going to be the key with the Windows logo. Super key F1 brings up, let's see, make sure I'm in here. Super key F1 brings up a help page in which I can see kind of like what things, so I can see, oh yeah, Alt Tab cycles through the windows, Super Tab opens a Windows switcher, Super X closes a window, and then the ones here, either down below, there's some other ones, applications. I can see that Super Shift Return opens up a terminal, so let's do that. Super Shift Enter or Super Shift Return, and that brings up another window. And so you can see there's the one I had moves over, and the one I opened is now the primary one in focus on the left. And you can kind of tell that with this color scheme because the border is this different color. And then if I use the super key and an arrow, I can move this shift or the focus to the other one. Or now I'm in this one and I'm controlling this one. Super and the arrow moves it back, and I can type something here. And I think I have a network connection and that sort of thing. So I can type pwd for print working directory and see where I am and that sort of thing. So this is just the live boot live machine. So let's open an additional window. So I think Super Shift E opens up a Windows Explorer. This is also something that I'm completely new to, but this you can think of it as kind of like Windows Explorer. And in Windows, to get to the file manager, you would press the Super key and E. So Super E brings up the Windows Explorer in Microsoft Windows. In this one, I pressed Super Shift E, did something similar, bring up an Explorer. And so from here, I can see the particular files I'm at. And I don't have anything in this because it's a live boot. There's nothing there. But let's I guess go to Documents. I can see Documents here. And I'll go to the shift up here. I'll cd into, so change directory into Documents, and then I'll just create a file. So I'll do touch test.txt, and then that does that. And you can see it takes a few seconds to refresh, but then down here in the window manager, I can see that that test.txt showed up. And if I do super down here, then I can move around and see that, and right now that file is empty. It doesn't have any text in it. So let's go up again to here, and let's see, I'll type in which vim to see if vim is installed. Vim is not there. Let's just use vi, because that is there. And then which shows me the path of where that program is located. So let's do vi test.txt and just write some basic text. So I'm going to press I to insert, and then this is some text. And then I'm going to press escape to get out of the insert mode, shift colon, and then write quit, exclamation point, and then it exits out. And then, it wrote something. That's what happened. I misspelled up here, right here. Instead of typing the actual thing, I wrote text there. So let's remove the original one that I made, rm test.txt. And then I'm going to, and then you can see it updating down here in the file manager. And then let's rename it. And one of the ways to rename in the command line is to move it. So I'll move test.txt to test.text to test.txt. And then you can see that moves it and updates it here. Then if I press the super key and go down to this Ranger file manager again, if I could use the arrow key to go over, then it gives me a preview of what that text is. So I've been showing you, of course, some basic text editing stuff. A lot of my audience will already know this, but up until, well, I knew how to use Vi and Vim, the basics of that, for a long time, many years, probably well over 10 years. But I'm not an expert. I'm not proficient in its use. So I'm comfortable showing you the basics that I just showed you now, but I'm definitely not a power user. I hope to change that. I hope to learn to use Vim and to become quite proficient and use it as a powerful tool. Right now, that's not where I'm at. But I just wanted to show you that it comes with some file manager. Here's the command line. Here's my shortcut keys and that sort of thing. And then if I want to move stuff around, that's where the things get interesting. So I'll press Windows Shift or Super Shift and then my arrow key, and that moves the one that was highlighted over to this area. And then if I take this again and do the same thing, it kind of moves that, and then it moves this over here. And then if I do Super Control, I can change the height of that particular one, or the direction. So if I can move that up like that, and now I can see more of the file manager. And then if I say, well, hey, I really don't need this over here to be as wide as it is, I can press the other arrow key, I can move it to the right. So Super Control, and then I can move it like so. I'm not sure why the text is moving around a little bit like it does there in the terminal, but it sure is. It's kind of weird. But super up there, press clear, and that goes back to normal. And I'm not used to the Z shell. I'm used to Bash. Is how I'm used to interacting with the command line. But they're very similar in the basic commands. But I know that some of the advanced features are different. That's the reason why different ones exist. And then to close out a particular thing, I can press Windows X, and then that closes out. So I can close out that one, close out that one. And the Manjaro bspwm does come with some applications pre-installed, pretty much just a web browser and some other things, a few other things. So if I just press the super key, it does have this nice launcher, and I can just type Fire, and then Firefox is the top one, and I can launch that. And there's another graphical, I think there's a disks utility as well, which I use a lot for my regular work when checking out computers. So I'll launch that here. And so here we have two graphical interface type of applications that would normally be overlapping each other, and you could move them around and cover them up like you would in what you would think of as a desktop window manager. Here they're not. They're on these separate tiles. And so, but same thing applies, and I can kind of move these around. So Windows Shift arrow key, and it swaps them like that. And if I wanted to change the width, Super Control, and then arrow keys either way to move them around like that. Now I can also send it to a different workspace. So, and that's where the kind of the powers of the tiling window manager comes in, is a multitasking. I have two things up here, but now I want to go back and focus on my web browser. Say I checked something in disks. I still want disks to be up, but I want to remove it from my view. I'm going to move it to a different workspace. So then I can press Windows Shift and 2. And then it moves that tile to a completely different workspace. And when that tile's gone, the remainder tile takes up the rest of the space that's there just automatically. It doesn't, like in a regular window manager, if you move another window to a different workspace or move it somewhere else, the window that was there stays in the shape that it was. It doesn't automatically use the whole screen. This is kind of a neat feature. I like this. And then to move to that other workspace, and the Manjaro bspwm uses Roman numerals up there to show the different workspace. And when you bring another one up, it shows that as a Roman numeral. So if I do Super 3, it shows me Roman numeral 3, and then it shows me something there. And if I go back to 2, the 3 disappears. But then if I go back to 3 with Super 3 again, and then I do Super Shift Enter to open up a terminal, now something's in that workspace, and so when I move back with Super 2, that Roman numeral stays up there at the top, like so. And then if I press Super 1 to go back to there. So if I'm switching, these are full screen applications, but then I can move things back. So let's go to 3, and then I can go Control Shift 1, and that moves that terminal back to the workspace or tag 1, and now they're both side by side again. And you can open up quite a few things here as well. So I'll just, open up a number of terminals, and you can kind of see them there, and they move around. And they sort of call this the Fibonacci way, where the windows get smaller and smaller and go in that thing. It's sort of like that. I get where they name that. But, let me rearrange these a little bit here. And I'll try to put all of these terminal ones on one side and then the Firefox browser on the other side. So I'm going to super shift, move that over there, super arrow to move that over there, and then super shift arrow to move it back over there. And now these are kind of like all tightly in there. And then I can go super control and up arrow and bring this up here. And so then it kind of resizes those a little bit. And the way that these acts and interacts, I'm still very much learning, and sometimes it behaves in ways that are unexpected to me because I've only been playing around with this for a couple days, and the way to control the windows is still I'm getting used to it. But this is super control and then up arrow, down arrow to kind of resize that focused window. And again, the one with the focus in this theme, you can see that the bright colored border around it shows which one you're focused on. And then so again, I can go through and press super X to close. So we want to close all those. Super X closed. Now I'm back to the full screen with that. And then I can super X and close that and get back to a desktop. And then you can see that the Roman numeral 2 is there. So if I do super 2, it'll show me that I've still got desks up. I accidentally pressed super again, then pressed escape to get out of that launcher menu. Press Windows X again, and now I'm out of all applications completely. So that's just a short demo of the tiles and a visualization of, hey, this is what a tiling window manager is, just so that you get an idea of the visual differences, but also how I can use the keyboard to move tiles around, quickly move them to workspaces, have something full screen right away. And there's a lot, those were just the very basic keyboard shortcuts. There's a little bit more. I only got into just kind of moving some basic things around and navigating. So far, I really like it. It feels good. Once you go through the basics and understand some of the just like, hey, here's how to move some things, to me, it feels good. It feels like, oh, I should have been using this long before I have. Why didn't I experiment with this before? And I'm not sure why I did. I think I just didn't even really realize what they were or that they existed. So that's an overview of tiling window managers. It was fun to play around with it on my ThinkPad. The Wi-Fi with Manjaro bspwm worked. It's kind of almost a text interface to you click on it and select your network, and it's not it's just text where it has as you enter your password and stuff like that. But it worked. I was able to sign on to a public Wi-Fi and when I was out and about, and then also to my home Wi-Fi with a live boot of the Manjaro bspwm. So bspwm has a lot of manual configuration. You can customize it to exactly the way that you'd like to. It takes a little while to learn how to do that, and that's what I need to do or what I plan to do. The nice thing about the live Manjaro bspwm is it comes pre-configured with stuff that pretty much works out of the box. Like I was able to boot, connect to wireless, the theming and stuff made sense. All the things were sort of set up so that you could basically do things. You could browse the web, you had a file manager, you have the terminal, you have a number of different ways to move around. I think, I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that when I set this up on Alpine Linux, which is one of my goals, is to get bspwm working on Alpine Linux, that I'll have to do a whole bunch of manual configuration. And I don't think that it will at all work out of the box nearly as much, if at all, the way that the Manjaro live boot of bspwm did. So that's my overview and demonstration of what tiling window managers are. With some live stuff and also showing off the ThinkPad as well. It's one of the classic ThinkPad This T420s has the classic keys. So RetroEdge.Tech, I do a lot of Linux stuff. I like Linux a lot. That's definitely a focus of mine. But another focus is the hardware itself. If I'm running an old desktop Dell Optiplex with a Core 2 Duo processor, or a ThinkPad with the classic keys, those are things that I enjoy and I am very much going to continue to focus on, is the hardware itself, in addition to the software. So both elements are important, and I plan on covering both in depth with RetroEdge.Tech. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.